Gracious ones, the great onrush of cosmic perfection that descends from the heart of God is so nigh unto every one that is receptive, that if they will only open their consciousness in the doorway that leads from their heart to the heart of God, they may receive this day from a series of concentric rings of light descending from on high, a tremendous outpouring of blue flame protection descending as from a waterfall. Each of these rings is releasing now over the head and over the aura of each individual who is receptive, a tremendous outpouring of the blue flame radiance from the heart of God. This is a cutting action of the cosmic circles whereby mankind are being prepared for a greater outpouring of cosmic purity. As you know, beloved ones, there has often been a great gap between the aspirations of mankind and that quality of godliness which they were able to externalize. This has been the source of lamentation on the part of many of the Chelas, who, recognizing the fact that they were not always able to so live as God directed, caused them to feel at times a feeling of inadequacy, as though the kingdom of God were passing them by, and those who did attain were in some measure far superior beings to themselves, inasmuch it is as it has never been the desire or the will of God, O precious hearts, to belittle any one of his creatures. It is then a great manifestation of his cosmic mercy this day that you understand that the action of the law is to give a special momentum and cosmic push to those individuals who yet lack enough of the required momentum of freedom's flame, so that they are able to always close this gap between their aspirations and the longings of their heart and that degree of godliness which they have desired to externalize but have failed to do. Ladies and gentlemen, if you will stop and realize how deep the love of God is for each one of his creatures, you will also recognize that no human mind is capable of fathoming the fullness of the love of God, and yet each individual soul is able to receive some degree of the great cosmic fire itself and feel the pressure of that flame as it itself in its cosmic action desires to cut them free from every vestige and trace of human creation. Human creation is insidious. I would almost say it is cancerous, for it does continue to expand into mankind those qualities which are opposing the very manifestation of the light, and it has an eating quality whereby it devours the noble aspirations of mankind. And therefore, it is a most noble act when an individual determines within themselves that they will rid themselves for all time of human creation. It is true that individuals have made this so-called human creation as a result of their wrong employment of the use of energy. Nonetheless, simply because they have created it does not mean that they are enjoying, beloved ones, the creation which they have made. I would call to your attention that the Lord God beheld the creation which he had made, and behold, he saw that it was good. This then signifies to all that the master blueprint of life created by God is wondrous in its designs, is beautiful to behold, and ever exalts all who look upon it. Therefore, when mankind choose to lament their own human creation, let them realize that there is a divine creation above them, waiting their externalization and recognition. As individuals recognize and pay more and more attention to that divine creation, which is the perfection of God, and less attention to the human creation of man, they will find that they are expressing more and more of their freedom. It is that simple, beloved ones, as Jesus said, "Unless ye become as little children, ye cannot enter into the kingdom." Individuals seem to feel that with the dawn of greater maturity in a physical sense, with the acquiring of more knowledge of the world, they also acquire spirituality. Unfortunately, this is not so. For as the knowledge of the world increases, many of the youth of the world find the burdens of life are increasing around about them, insomuch so that the oppressions of life with the coming of maturity become much greater than in the days of childhood. Therefore, it is necessary for mankind to examine this fact and to understand that this is because the wrong accent is placed upon life. Understanding life does not mean understanding human creation or the psychology of that creation. Understanding life means understanding God and his perfection. Mankind have been surfeited in their understanding of human creation. They have made plays of it. They have written countless novels concerning human creation, and they have wallowed in it day after day without ever escaping from it through this action. Now then, in the name of freedom, beloved ones, There is only one way that you are going to escape ever from human creation, and that is by entering completely into the divine creation with all of its wondrous outpouring of perfection. The perfection of God is a mighty shower of light, and it banishes darkness and ignorance from the human soul. It evokes within the consciousness of man immortal life, and it is the precious substance of that life itself. As I am speaking to you today and charging forth the radiance of immortality, I am aware of the fact that this immortality is imbued with cosmic wisdom, and the wisdom whereby the universe itself, with all of its crystallized formations, was released from the immortal spiritual dimensions into the world of form and shape and size and time sequences. Yet in all these sequences, unless you receive divine understanding and are saturated with that understanding, you cannot possibly maintain the flame of God happiness within you. For God happiness is the essence of immortality and purity. It has no part of human creation and human density. This could never be. In the name of heaven, then, beloved ones, you see now and behold why, when various cosmic beings appeared in scriptural episodes down through the ages and were offered physical food, that they reached forth a staff, and from that staff there sprung a fire, which consumed the offering of the devotee who offered this to them. Do you see then, beloved ones, that it is only the intensification of the cosmic flame which enables the immortalizing of any form of substance? By the release of this flame from the staff of the great hierarch, it came to pass that the offering of the individual was immortalized and consumed by the great flame. Therefore, the blessing of that one became an eternal and ever-present blessing, one that could never be taken from them. In the name of heaven, beloved ones, if the hierarch had paused to merely eat this morsel offered with the physical mouth, as it were, do you think then that it would have done more than to have provided energy and sustenance for the moment? But by consuming it in the great God flame, it became the eternal offering to the great Lord of all the earth. So it is, beloved ones, whensoever you offer your services to the great light, when you gaze upon a child in need, or upon anyone upon the planetary body, and the response is invoked from within yourself, not as the desire to be noticed by mankind, but as the desire to do the work of the Christ. It comes to pass that the great God flame within you leaps into manifestation and moves forward in the crowded streets of life to render a cosmic service. And upon your record in flaming letters, it is recorded as an act of grace. This then is the method whereby you will find you can externalize permanent good in your own world and lay up treasures for yourselves in heaven. Verily I say to you, those that do their alms before men, that they may be seen, they have their reward. These words of the Christ come from the universal teachings of the Great White Brotherhood, and they are ever fulfilled. We do not deny that mankind have many services to render in connection with the great cosmic light, and we do not deny that outer services are vitally important on the outer planes, but the great inner services of life must not be bypassed if men would have not only their ascension, but their permanent records contain the wondrous manifestation of immortal life. Beloved ones, bear in mind that you draw energy from the great cosmic bank daily. And if the energy which you draw is always consumed each day, then how can treasures be stored up for yourselves in heaven? Beloved ones, it is that something extra which you are offering when you call forth from the heart of God, from cosmic dimensions, a special flame of love for and on behalf of one in need, that there is the invocation of cosmic mercy and the going forth of light to the very ends of the universe. I am trying this day to engender within your great heart flames, precious ones of the light, the cosmic sense that is based upon cosmic wisdom, that will build not only for this moment immortal substance, but will build for all the ages to come in the work of him who has sent me forth, the work of God, the great master builder of life. In his great dimensions and eternal mansions, there is released the fullness of the cosmic light. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you, I go to prepare a place for you, that where I am, there ye may be also. And therefore it comes to pass that in your own I am presence, there is released into you, into your very heart, the feeling of the eternal mansions of God, builded around your immortal being. And it comes to pass then that the great blueprint of life is now presently in the process of constructing the temple of God around your own being. You, beloved ones, will find that the city foursquare, the great cosmic cube of life, is being molded around the God flame of your being. You will find then that heaven is not only a place, but a consciousness which must draw very close to you on all sides of the great cosmic cube, until the city of God, the new Jerusalem, descending out of heaven into form, comes into reality within your own force field and the dimensions of your being, and not of another. Wist ye not that the light of God is all about you? Wist ye not that the power of immortality is all about you? Know you not that that flame of immortality is also about all mankind? And yet, by reason of the fact that they are in a state of unknowing, they are not able to enter into its consciousness, and therefore immortal life descending from God unto all bypasses them, and they come into round after round of existence in karma-making circumstances, whereby they lay not the foundation of immortality, but the foundations of human density, redeeming at great cost their precious misused energies, and entering into a constant state of human limitation by reason of the power of human creation and their wrong thoughts and feelings. Beloved ones, then, accept from Lanto's heart the power of the great God flame of immortality, the power of the Holy Spirit, the great onrush that sweeps past mankind and clean escapes the multitudes, and yet cometh to those few who, recognizing it not only in this day and age, but in all ages past, will enter into the fullness of that light and become that light and its great outpouring. It is not possible, unless mankind shall recognize it, for them to enter into this great power. For the power will pass them by, and it will seem to them as though it had never been. I say to you, beloved ones, when all mankind today, presently in embodiment, reach their last breath, and the breath is taken from them as it returns to the heart of the great Lord Ma Chohan, do you think it seems to them at that moment as though life had ever been? I tell you, it is as though it were but a heartbeat, from the moment that their infant heart begun to beat until it no longer beats. Therefore I say to you, it is not the time sense that men must reckon with, but the divine sense. It is the eternal now. It is the great onrush of that now, and that perfection released into their force field that must become the forte and the glory of all individuals upon earth. So long as they spend their time entering into the human consciousness, they will be divided, and they will be also separated from the great light of their presence. It is only by entering into it that true divine wisdom springs forth into their being, draws them to the great light, and causes them to demand of life the release of its perfection. Why do you suppose, beloved ones, that day after day some of you seek and desire to come here that you may have the release of our energy? It is in a great cosmic hope, I tell you, and to fulfill that hope you must enter into the fullness of that which the hope is composed of. Now abideth faith, now abideth hope, now abideth charity, these three. But the greatest of these is charity, for charity is the fulfilling of the law, and charity is the great law of love in action. This is that which I am releasing in the substance of my release into your worlds today. And it goes forth to all of the students of St. Germain, all over America and all over the world, and it goes all around the world and the great electronic belt of the world, to produce and to sustain the ascended Master's God control and the rising tide of wisdom that forms a pathway of illumination into the golden age. Be thou then released, O thou holy substance, and acknowledge you the pathway that leads to God and to immortality and to purity and to victory and to freedom. In the name of God, out from the great central sun to the royal Teton, I am releasing then, by the power of the light, the great golden eagle, and the pathway of the light is sweeping across America and the world, bearing the banner of freedom and the hopes of men that shall become the manifest charity of their being. In the name of God, from out the great central sun, I say, life take control, and see that thy perfection is produced now and always by the Spirit of holiness and purity and completion. The Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth then keep silence before him and be at peace. In God's name I thank you, precious ladies and gentlemen of St. Germain. I thank you in the name of the entire spirit of the Great White Brotherhood, and I ask and pray that the spirit of compassion that fills your heart this day be sustained until you no longer can sustain the momentums of human creation and the factors of human division, but can only sustain the flame of pure love that will enlighten your worlds day after day and fill you with the speech of the Lord of hosts. Blessed be his holy name. I thank you and bid you good afternoon. May the peace of God enfold your hearts now this blessed day, and may the pulsations that come from the realms of light bring to the world all the strength required this hour. I am come to trail a mantle of my glory this day into the fields of the world, where the nodding grain, some full ripe and some yet not ripe, is waving in the sunlight, awaiting the time of the fullness of the harvest. The love and compassion, the strength and the power, the resurrection flame of God, these manifestations which I am are as much a part of ye as of myself. This portion is your own. Through human creation and the acceptance of the pressures of mass consciousness, mankind have accepted a false idea about themselves. This idea must be laid aside, and in watching with me the 1 hour or the many that the great law requires, all must submit themselves unto the will of heaven. Standing at the gate of paradise, the angel with the drawn sword keeps the way of the tree of life. The invincible power of our Father, of your Father and mine, is able to sweep aside in mercy's name all that is not a part of your own splendid reality, to part the veil in mercy's name, and to let the great God flame of life that immortalized me and flooded my being with the wonders of God enter in by the power of love into your heart, and commune there in that temple of reality. O mankind, you cannot know, or you would not think as you do, of the great expanding wonder of the temple of God within your heart. Your heart is intended to be an altar where the flame of life can blaze in freedom's name. Your heart is intended to be akin to my own. It is no blasphemous act when you consider yourselves as a radiating Christ, but it is the holding of the immaculate concept for yourselves, as my mother was wont to do for me, and as I am advocating that all shall do for one another. As I am speaking to you this afternoon, there is a specific action taking place here in this room and spreading throughout the city of Boston, and it is the action of mercy's flame. The pulsation of mercy's flame is released today from the heart of Kuan Yin, the goddess of mercy, and it is for the healing of the nations and the assertion of divine power over the affairs of men. The delusions of mankind have caused mankind to lose their way, and as lost sheep gone astray, I am come to draw them and the substance of their worlds into a state of reclamation, where they may claim the holy energies which came forth from God as their own, and by the flame of cosmic regeneration enter into the fullness of that light which abides in the mighty roaring furnace of violet flaming substance. You will recall, O children of the light, how that I long ago walked with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fiery furnace, heated white hot. You will recall how that I appeared there with them and shielded them from the flame, lowering the vibratory action of the flame in a manner to transmute it into light, so that not a hair of their head was singed, and it seemed as though a miracle had taken place to those who looked, and yet it was simply a manifestation of natural law, the manifestation of the power of God control. I would use as an illustration of that a lead pencil, for the substance of that pencil is graded, so that you say, this is a hard lead, and this one is soft. I ask you, is it not a matter of relativity? For what is softness and hardness but a manifestation of the density of the substance? To vary that density, then, is to control in a relative sense the manifestation. And in one sense, matter is energy, and the flame is energy, and the flame can be light, and light can be the flame. When you invoke in my name and in God's name the flames of freedom called forth from God's heart, for your own freedom and the freedom of mankind, the power of this flame breathes into action through your invocation and floods forth as a tangible sun presence of that specific quality of God. If freedom be your desire, and you invoke the flame of freedom, it is freedom's flame that pours forth from you. If you invoke healing flames, then the flame of healing pours forth from you. It is simply a matter of qualification, and the qualification must occur in your consciousness, and you must bear in mind that your consciousness is at all times the consciousness of God. One of the greatest errors which mankind can make is considering themselves to be separated from God, for it is in this sense of separation that there actually occurs a manifest state of fixation where a great gulf of consciousness is created. I told about this in the story of Lazarus and the rich man, and in that parable there is made known to mankind the great gulf that lies fixed between those who consider themselves separated from God and those who are able to enter into the bosom of the Father. Because it is my desire today to bring you into a state of listening grace and greater awareness. I therefore say to you today, sever from your consciousness, pour out from yourselves all of the attitudes of defeat related to the idea of separation, and consider yourselves as a part of heaven's own mainland, not a far-off distant island of the sea, but an integral part of the universal consciousness, beloved and loving, devoted and devoting all of the consciousness to the service of the greater light. The light that is within you is not darkness, save it be qualified by shadowed substance. If the light that is in you, or the energy that is in you, be qualified with the substance of darkness, then truly you would pour forth the radiation of darkness, and this would not be the will of God. Therefore, in coming to you today, I draw near with light's radiance to wrap you in a mantle of my own victory, the victory of the presence of God, the great uniting power that holds together and causes all substance to hold its perfect pattern of the divine identity. When the creation first issued forth from on high, it existed as a thought within the mind of God, and therefore there was a day when in a sense all of you were but thought children of God, and the very thoughts of God, by the power of holy regeneration and the breath of the sacred fire, came forth into being. And so on that day the sons of God rejoiced and danced together and sang for holy joy, and there was no discord in existence anywhere in the universe, for all was pure light. By and by it came to pass that in ages and aeons of eternal release, the desire to create was born in those specific sons of God to whom it was given, and they went forth into manifestation and created. And it came to pass that suns and planetary systems and worlds without end were born. And it came to pass that the radiance of the higher spheres descended into lower octaves, and yet lower. And it came to pass that ultimately mankind separated to a point where they were no longer aware of their own great source, for they had reached a point on the periphery of life, where the very radiance of the sun of heaven seemed afar off and distant. There then, in the wells of their own individuality, they came into a consciousness of vying with one another, competing with one another, and entering into a spirit of separatism and discord. In that spirit of discord and separatism, each went their separate ways, and yet it came to pass, in connection with the historical life upon this planet, that the man Nimrod came forth desiring to unite mankind, and called them together, seeking to build a Tower of Babel, a tower that would reach unto heaven. It came to pass that he sought to unify and to weld the people together. But this action was not the action envisioned by God. It was not the action of the archangels and their archai. It was not the action of the Elohim and the builders of form from higher levels, but it was the power of an individual's thought and idea. And therefore it came to pass that the word went forth, let us go down now and see this work which man has begun, the building of this tower. And as we witnessed it, it came to pass that we saw that every desire of man's heart was constantly based upon inequity, and hatred and discord was rampant among men. And so we determined to use the power of the angels, and we stretched forth our hand, and it came to pass that the speech of the people was confused, and they were no longer able to understand one another, and so they went forth into divers parts of the world, and the plans of Nimrod came to naught. The plans of God, however, are the plans based upon the power of divine love, the outreach of love into society occurs through the power of love in the individual's own heart, and the heart of each person dedicated to his own mighty God presence will draw forth from the universal consciousness that specific momentum which the great law of his own being requires. He will draw forth enough of God's substance to obtain the victory in his own world. There is no power in heaven or earth that can deny to one who is determined in a godly way his own portion and substance of immortality. But all must follow the fixed laws, the moral code, and the justice of heaven if they would manifest a continuing perfection. There are none anywhere in the universe that can flaunt the laws of God and of heaven with impunity. I tell you, this has been tried, and down through the centuries one individual or another has considered themselves to be special, as though they were set apart. And this is not the law of God. The law is universal, and the law of universal love holds all in the center of love's own flame. But love is also justice, and love is compassion. Love is understanding, and love is virtue. Therefore those who lay claim to the bounties of heaven and desire to feel the great pulsations of the love ray must also manifest the wisdom power of God. These must take dominion in the temple of their own being. These must, if necessary, overturn the tables of the money changers and drive them from the temple of life. They must not recognize life as an economic holocaust where they seek to wrest from life the secrets of life that they may take dominion over other men and over their minds. But they must recognize that by laying their all upon the altar of service, that service will itself come into manifestation and cannot be denied to any. I am the ascended Master Jesus, speaking unto you and saying, our God is a righteous God. Our God is a just God. Our God is a God of purity, and purity's flame. I am come then in God's name to uphold the standard of cosmic virtue, to bring forth the vibratory action that draws from the heart of our Father the substance that will reclaim your energies and make those energies wholly divine. For when above 51% of your energies are wholly divine. There is no power upon earth that can hold your feet any longer to the planetary body, but you must rise into the atmosphere in the manner like unto which I rose from Bethany's hill. You must feel the pulsations of light's victory flowing through your nerves and being, until there is no longer any power that holds you wedded to mortal substance and to the planetary body. I ask you now, in God's holy name, to consider for a moment your own selves. Turn for a moment and look yourselves in the face, and see what it is, beloved ones, that holds you back. Did I not say one day, long ago, he that will not forsake his father and his mother and his wife and his own life also for my sake is not worthy of me? Bear well in mind then that I did not ask this to glorify my own ego or to bring a sense of adoration into man's consciousness for my form or my identity, that my name Jesus might be honored, but I said it for the sake of the light that is within every son of heaven. I spake it then unto men, because I knew that in following with a whole heart the divine pattern, mankind would swiftly come into a state of freedom from all self-imposed bondage. Did I not declare, my burden is light and my yoke is easy? This burden of light, this weightless, immortal substance, is the very essence which I am charging forth now into your midst. For lo, I am come in the fullness of Christ's love to amplify in you the power of love that can take a flower from its stalk and hold it in your hand and rejoice that it has given its life for you. The power that will love this flower and see behind its outer manifestation the sweet essence of the builders of form, those consecrated elementals who have builded into it both color and substance, density, block upon block, substance upon substance, and charged it with the electronic pattern that inflows through the universal system and hierarchies of heaven into the finite world. Beloved ones, when you gaze into a child's eyes or into the eyes of the aged and you see there the light of God, a yearning for reunion with him, you may rejoice, for this is the light which ought to be invoked within everyone's heart. For agelessness must replace a sense of age, and individuals must no longer consider themselves as a failure simply because they have not realized some definite goal which they have yearned for in this life or another life. Beloved ones, the yearnings and aspirations of mankind are a tender manifestation of God's love. The yearnings and aspirations of mankind are to be fulfilled, but they must be fulfilled in the fullness of time, when enough of divine love has been called forth to produce the victory which the great law desires to expand. I am the first and the last. I am Alpha and Omega. I am the beginning within you of the generative and regenerative power of heaven to fulfill the perfect outpicturing of your own radiant identity. I am the Son of God, yea, but ye also are sons of God, and together we shall one day rejoice in the kingdom of our Father. Let not human vanity detract your attention from me, or outer substance, but turn your attention to that which is within, for it is only in that light that is within that all that is without can be realized, and realized correctly and accurately. Think ye, beloved ones, that the mere luminous orbs which you call your eyes, turned to outer substance, can know it? I take for example the power of the X-ray. The power of the X-ray, which itself is but a system which mankind have developed, is able to penetrate your substance and outpicture for you that which is within the flesh form. I say to all of you then, when you have the power to know that which is behind the flesh form and behind substance, when you can recognize in God's name that I am an ascended being speaking to you through the veil of flesh, but nevertheless present here this day, because I would that ye would receive my radiance and become imbued with my love, you will understand then your own responsibility and accountability for your use of energy. I do not anticipate that any of you are capable of manifesting more of understanding than that which has been given to you by God, because you are charged with the responsibility, you see, of accepting that which has been given down through the ages, and you have become very much accountable for that which has been given unto you. And yet, because some have received and yet have not valued the gift has departed as a little bird that was held within their hand, and it has flown on swift wings out into the air and the sunshine, and is no longer held there within their hand. This may seem to them as though it is well and good, but I say to you, beloved ones, that in letting go of the little bird imprisoned within your hand, you must remember that you have the power to retain the love of this little bird, the love and essence that God has for the little bird within your heart. And therefore, in letting go, you must also learn to retain. You must become very definitely masters of your world, of your minds, and of all substance that passes through your being. I am giving you here a very definite, graded instruction. I am giving you a power behind that which I am speaking. I am giving you a knowledge behind that which appears on the surface. For there is a very specific thought that is held here, which those of you whose attention is upon God and upon your presence will be able to invoke, and the rest will miss it as though it had passed completely over your head, as an eagle flying high, returning to the planet Venus. I say to you, beloved ones, the great golden eagle from the planet Venus has this day passed over Boston and has brought about a specific radiance for the people of Boston, which must of necessity spread across this planetary body. It is our hope that mankind will find thereby a reinforcement of the power of freedom and freedom's flame. It is our hope that the powers of communism will wane as a result of mankind's acceptance of the great golden eagle of divine freedom that has a part of its body charged with the radiance of violet flame substance. Ladies and gentlemen, it is not our wish to weary your minds or your forms or your personalities, and therefore we shall return to the radiance from whence we came. When your hunger is great enough, when your faith is stronger, we shall give you the answer to a riddle which we would have given you today, save there was two people in this place who could not keep their attention anchored long enough upon this power in order that we might give it to all. It is our hope then not to invoke repentance in their hearts, but to invoke their attention upon the great God flame. For an opportunity once past does not always return, and men need a greater sense of value. By this sense and the development thereof, they will come more swiftly into their freedom. Without it, they will continue to find the world is their guru, and the world and its harshness shall teach them point by point those lessons which we are so willing to impart at inner levels, even while the body form sleeps. Let those who will then sleep on, but let those who will awaken and watch with me this hour and always do so. We speak the word of love. In us there is only the justice of heaven. And to you all this we impart in God's love and flame, that by the power of the mighty name of God ye may come where I am, and in that place which is prepared for you, you will find the answers to all that has seemed to elude you. You will find the pressure of the divine essence manifested to your comfort and courage. You will find all that you lack manifesting there. But you may draw it forth here and now, for lo, I am with you always, even unto the end of the age. I thank you and bid you good afternoon. heart friends of freedom, I am come this night, holding for each one of you an immaculate concept of the purity and the power and the radiance that is your own reality. As a mist dissolves before the rising sun, so I am come tonight in the fullness of the light of the flame of freedom to consecrate anew and to revivify all those who require it with a special impetus of the flame of freedom, a momentum that has blessed the world with the God ideal of freedom through the centuries, and that shall in future time expand until it becomes an incomprehensible essence of God magnificence in action. Ladies and gentlemen, individuals by their own conceit are not able to penetrate through the veil. For no man can by himself move aside the veil that separates the realities of God from the physical manifestation. It is only by the essence of divine faith, planted by the hand of heaven within the heart, that men are able to summon the pulsations of the sacred energies, which are the requirement of the moment, and to set aside time and space, and to find the answers to those questions which presently perplex them. Mankind have not always understood all of the facts that they have desired to about the mysteries of nature. How can they expect then to probe the mysteries of spiritual power and the mysteries of universal love? You must bear in mind, beloved ones, that material substance is manifest to your senses, but spiritual substance manifests to your inner soul sense, to your higher developed faculties. If an individual then be lacking in the required spiritual development, although all of the power of heaven may surround him, he may not even feel so much as one pulsation of the divine breath released around him. It is necessary for such as these to become as a little child and to seek to find the answers until, with the passing of time and the development of spiritual character, the noble qualities of life are implanted into the heart and the force field of that individual. By such a process, countless individuals in the past have attained to sainthood and have graced the scene of life and have flowed forth a mighty flame of power which has blessed their individuals, those who have surrounded them, members of their family, and those acquainted with them. Blessed ones, as I draw near unto you tonight to consecrate in you a greater sense of freedom, I ask you to relax all of the brittleness of your consciousness, the harshness of human creation, and the harshness of human thought. Remember, beloved ones, that in centuries, hundreds of years, mankind have not been able to escape from their own human creation by the power of materiality, but only by appealing to the power of heaven have men been able to surmount the obstacles that have beset them. The power then of freedom lies not in matter and substance, but in the purified essence of life that sun of beauty that is behind the life force flowing in every human heart and flowing through elemental life. You may say that you do not see the wind, but the effect of the wind is paramount to all observers, and the honest of heart must admit to the pulsations of heaven's frequencies, especially when those frequencies touch upon the very substance of their thought. Beloved ones, as you enter in to a greater awareness of God, it follows, as the day the night, that you must lay aside human contempt and ridicule for one another. You must recognize that the action that takes place in an individual's mind when they hold any form of contempt for any part of life is a diminishing of the God power of the individual holding another in contempt. For this is an inversion of the principle of light. And what develops then is that the light that is in thee, destined and intended to manifest as purity and to assist you to your freedom, is misdirected into a form of criticism either subtle or obvious. This may be voiced or it may be concealed. The one is perhaps worse than the other, and yet that which is internally held to and which directs individuals away from their great God source to point their finger of scorn at another individual in life anywhere is to rob them of the power to rise and to find their own freedom and mastery. Individuals may feel at times that it is unnecessary for me to speak out on these matters, and yet I call to your attention the fact that there is no matter whatsoever, regardless of how small it may be, that is having the effect of preventing you from entering into the fullness of your freedom, that ought not to concern every son of heaven. In the name of God, beloved ones, if you were now manifesting the fullness of your perfection, would we not then be able to consider you as our counterparts in the world of form? And inasmuch as you have given voice in the past to the desire to be our counterparts, would it not then be the divine discretion that is the best part of valor, which would admit to the truth that in the human lies which individuals utter in a state of unknowing, there is never found release from the fetters that bind? For there is a certain blindness in human conceit and ignorance which must be healed, that individuals may find the fullness of their freedom by the very vital power of God. Now, beloved El Moria, your own friend of many years, has long implored for all of you that a greater release of the holy will should be brought about, where you might enter in more completely into the obtaining of your own spiritual inheritance. With the passing of the years, some of you have lamented the fact that you have not obtained your expected freedom. I advocate, as he has for so long, that you for a moment reflect upon the sense of co-measurement. It is true that some of you have for years pursued the spiritual path, but if by co-measurement you will gaze backward to the number of wasted years and embodiments in which some of you flaunted the very idea of God in ignorance, wandering about, as it were, in caves of darkness and shadowed substance, scarcely comprehending the purposes of existence. How then do you expect, beloved ones, that in a matter of a few short years, because you have been given some of the keys of your freedom, that you shall obtain the fullness of your mastery? It is not that we would hold you back. Heaven knows, and the entire brotherhood knows, that it is our desire to have each and every one of you feel the fullness of all the beauty and wonder and peace and power which is your own rightful dominion. Heaven knows that we have served faithfully the causes of freedom for all mankind. Heaven knows also the fact that it is the unused knowledge which mankind have that stands in judgment, a silent witness against the ineffectual manifestation of their energies. Mankind cannot transgress the law of being and then find the fullness of being manifesting within them. It does not matter because an individual does not know. Ignorance of the law, beloved ones, is no excuse. And if individuals know the meaning of the law and then continue to flaunt that law, how can they expect that they are not, in essence and in effect, denying their own freedom? Ladies and gentlemen, recent events upon the planetary body have brought home to many of you a message of the meaning of life and the power of life's pressure. You do not realize that at this moment events of momentous importance are taking place in the universe. Some of you are concerned with thoughts that are very trivial, and you will wonder one day, when you had the opportunity of contacting my vibratory action, as to just how much you contributed to the release of the vital energies that would have exalted all those that are around you. I say then, in the name of God and in the name of freedom, recognize, O mankind, the need to consecrate your own God-given energies on behalf of the holy cause. Let a stillness enter into your mind, and let that stillness quiet the rebellious waters of human creation. The rise of human emotionalism has never given you your freedom, and your dominion lies within the realm of God control. God control, effectively administered, is necessary for every individual. Some individuals seem to feel that they are above the law, that they administer the law, rather than have the law administered unto them. This is only human stubbornness. It is Torah substance, a certain bullishness in human creation that must be removed and brought into dominion. I say to you then, on behalf of the mighty flame of freedom, let the power of God unto salvation penetrate and shatter the substance of human creation that is within you, and awaken unto the shortness of the days ahead for many of mankind. In the span of a few short years, some of you will be called before a higher tribunal to give account concerning your use of energy. It is very possible that some of you, if you will love enough and consecrate enough, will find your freedom in that few short years. But, beloved ones, I am, in the name of holy love, most anxious that this shall be so. And it is for this reason that I am speaking out to you as I am this night, that I may draw up from within you the mighty flame of freedom as a great magnet draws forth steel, and call you unto the recognition of the power of light to magnetize the spiritual flames within the heart of each cell of your being, and to cause those flames to become radiating suns, pulsating with the essence of freedom. Do you realize, beloved ones, how much weight is added to humanity by the power of wrong thought? By wrong thought and negation, there is a ballast attached to mankind, which punctures the balloon of their aspirations and drags them down into dense spheres. When they recognize that the God power within them is like helium, but requires husbanding, and must be gathered and placed within the skin that desires to rise, they will recognize that their own being is the skin which must contain the holy consecrated energies that shall cause them to effectively rise in consciousness until they are able to comprehend that which presently seems such a mystery. The mysteries of life and of death, the mysteries of being, are not realized by mankind as they ought to be, for human density causes a lack of faith on the part of many, so that they serve to seek for a mess of pottage rather than accept their own immortal birthright. The cup of life extended to each one of you is a cup of great virtue. It is the essence of purity, and it is your own freedom. Long ago, when beloved Godfrey offered to David Lloyd this cup containing the elixir, ladies and gentlemen, I call to your attention that David Lloyd was ready to receive that special offering which gave him his ascension. And so it is today that you must make yourselves ready in consciousness to receive the presence of the living Christ. You must make yourselves ready to enter into your own freedom. You may say unto me, how can I do this, Saint Germain? How can I do this, seeing I do not know just what steps to take? Beloved ones, God, who is at hand, the mighty flame of life within you, knows every thought that passes through your consciousness. There is never any need to complicate this. You can simply resign yourselves to the fullness of God's divine plan. You can enter even now into the fullness of the ascended master consciousness, but you must forsake your human identity, your identification with matter, your identification with wrong concepts, your identification with wrong ideals. Mankind do not even recognize in many cases, I tell you in the name of God, that they have wrong ideals, but they do. Some of them feel the desire to attain godliness in order that they may parade this before men. Beloved ones, this is never a right action. All godliness must be obtained as a point of service, whereby you desire to assist mankind to find their freedom. Freedom is found by loving. Freedom is found by giving. Freedom is found in purity of concept and in right motive. Freedom is found in the ascended master octave. Freedom is found in the living word. Our words are living cups of light. You, beloved ones, are chalices into which we would pour the very essence of the word, that that word may manifest not only today, but every day until the chords of universal harmony that are resounding throughout the universe will find a response within you, until there is evoked within you the very responses that every ascended master has always given prior to their ascension. Beloved ones, so long as there is in mankind skepticism or cynicism, so long as any thought of negation exists, mankind cannot possibly enter into their freedom. They must first of all forsake all materialistic ideas ere they can be filled with the power of the Lord the Mahachohan. In the name of heaven, beloved ones, how is it possible that so long as the vessel of a man is not empty that he can expect to be filled? It is only when there is an emptiness of all materiality and of all identification with mortality and all of its transitory actions that mankind can enter into an eternal action and find their freedom. Men and women today, as always, desire to impress. They desire to let people be informed as to their wisdom, their power, their glory, and their substance. This is that which bears their own brand. It is the brand of human creation. It is not identification with God. When men then are willing to forsake their all and offer themselves completely to their own mighty I Am presence, the fullness of God, the mighty power of life, like an inrushing current, will flood through their being, will flush out from their consciousness the substance of negation, the dark, shadowy, and sinuous substance that has too long kept them from their noble inheritance. In its place, the power of resurrection's flame, the power of the ascended masters will manifest. The holiness of God will come into effulgence as a great sun shining in its splendor, and purity and loveliness shall be enjoyed by mankind. Do you know, beloved ones, it would be a great travesty to transport the bulk of mankind into the heavenly octaves, for they would be most uncomfortable there, unless they were able to manifest and exhibit the consciousness to which they were accustomed. They would find no joy in entering the octaves of heaven, and therefore it is necessary that mankind shall be trained and retrained in the vital knowledge of how to behave in the kingdom of God. This may sound for a moment as though it is very simple, but if you will reflect upon it, you will realize that a certain conditioning is necessary before individuals can find happiness in the divine experience. If you have any questions upon this, beloved ones, I invite you to even peruse some of the holy writings written by various monks and individuals who have entered into holy orders, seeking to find a greater unfoldment of their divinity. When they first entered these holy orders, filled with the knowledge of the world, they found a great contrast in the manifestation of their spiritual experiences after they had emptied themselves of all of that substance and had recognized the greatness of God. At first, beloved ones, the idea of God, the fullness of the entire universe, seems to mankind to be a most simple thing. It seems as though the very name of God, I Am, is somewhat of a travesty, for mankind identify it with the human ego. Many years ago, when first releasing in this particular era the knowledge of the I Am law, mankind became rebellious at the idea of the word I Am, and certain epithets were attached to various individuals who were teaching this law, and they referred to them as though they thought that they were the great I Am in manifestation. Well, ladies and gentlemen, nothing could be further from the truth. For you see, mankind's concepts are not the concepts of heaven. And therefore I tell you that when the name I Am is properly understood, individuals will have the key that leads to their own freedom. Today, mankind still identify, even with the knowledge of this law, with human creation and attach to it the name I am. When you feel tired and you admit to it and you say, I am tired, ladies and gentlemen, you are admitting into your world the very substance of fatigue and amplifying it. When therefore you recognize that you are the invincible energy of God, the full power of God into manifestation, you will recognize that you have the key within your own world to set yourselves free from that substance, that human viciousness, that strangling energy which causes mankind to feel the oppression of ignorance and to sleep in the vanity of human creation, while all of the universe with its mighty onrush of power goes on and passes them by. Well, it need not pass you by, beloved ones, for you have that key to your own freedom available to you right now while I am speaking to you. You have merely to submit, ladies and gentlemen, to your own mighty I am presence, to the fullness of your great God source, and say to the heart of your own presence, O beloved God presence, I am in me. Give me the fullness of thy radiance. Let thy mighty transcendent power elevate within me all that is of the light, until from the very tips of my toes to the top of my head thy mighty energy is rushing upward toward heaven to glorify my consciousness with all that thou art, the fullness of life, light, and love in manifestation. With this concept, ladies and gentlemen, flooding your being, you will understand the elevating, ennobling power that enabled Jesus to rise from Bethany's hill. You will understand the ennobling power that enabled Mother Mary to overcome all of human viciousness and creation as it poured forth and spewed out its energy around her. For you realize, beloved ones, that the disciples of the Christ were not always harmonious in all of their expressions to one another. There were many times when they spoke out after a human fashion in ignorance, with an outburst here and an outburst there of human discord. But Mother Mary, as the harmonizing, all-loving presence of life, continually expanded the mighty flame of freedom, the freedom of those disciples and of those around her, until by her love she poured oil upon the troubled waters, and it came to pass that the radiance of Jesus flowed forth from her, and they remembered his words, "Peace, be still," and they felt that dominant action, the power of the sacred word, sounding forth from her. Although her tones were melodious and soft, although it was a gentle statement, it had all the power of the universe within it. And matter, substance and energy obeyed her gentle plea. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, when will mankind awaken to obtain their own freedom? How long will life continue to suffer the crises of individuals continuing to dwell in the muck of human creation, pointing fingers of scorn at one another when they ought to be assisting one another to find their own freedom? In the name of God, ladies and gentlemen, you must forsake all human action, all action that is critical and destructive, all gossip, and all scandal-mongering, and all that is not the fullness of your freedom. If you will observe the action, ladies and gentlemen, that takes place in the world today, in all of the world's religious activities, you will realize that there is a very sinister action that takes place to cause the finger of scorn to be pointed at world figures. It is not alone the Christ who was crucified upon Golgotha's hill. For many today who bear the name of Christ are crucified by the sinister activity which actually functions through human consciousness to try to bring discredit to the mighty power of the living Word. We admit that it has no power insofar as our octave is concerned, but what about yours? What about a number of individuals who are turned aside from the great law, who lose faith in the power of their great God self simply because some individual has not exercise the control of their own tongue or their own mind or their own thought. Ladies and gentlemen, you must watch your words, you must watch your thoughts, you must watch your attitudes and all subtle motives, for these are the keys to your ascension. Do you think, beloved ones, when Jesus was in the wilderness and tempted of the devil, that this is not an example of that which comes to every son who aspires to be a son of heaven? In the name of your cosmic freedom, then, I say to all of you, awaken this night and remain awake. Watch with the ascended masters according to the ascended master law. Recognize your own responsibility in group activity and realize that in all group activity, loyalty to God must come first and above all loyalty to some individual. You must recognize that God as impersonal energy, which is certainly radiant and pure, is to be held in the utmost respect by all. And those who are then manifesting their love for God must cleave to one another with the love of brethren and the love of faith and the love of beauty, the nobility of holiness and the shining example that shall draw many hearts to the great light and shall cut mankind free from all the dregs of civilization which have for so long filled the cup of their consciousness with a bitter potion. Ladies and gentlemen, in the name of your own cosmic freedom, I make a fiat for you, and I call to Archangel Zadkiel to blaze and blaze and blaze the substance of his holy sword through this audience, through this city, and out along the eastern seaboard of the United States, sweeping across the entire nation with a great outthrust of light to cut mankind free from all the power of human discord and viciousness, that the flame of freedom may take renewed pulsation this night and rise to new heights within your beating heart and within the hearts of all those who love the light and love the cause of freedom, not only for those assembled here. In God's name, blessed ones, let us not think in such puny terms, but let us think of a world waiting for the sunrise of its own divinity. Let us think of how one of you might be a keystone in the arch of creation, that one of you might bridge the gap between some specific endeavor for the light and its not coming into manifestation. Some of you might act so that mankind might even step upon your body and being to walk across to their own freedom. But it must come about because of dedication and not because of human weakness. Mankind have far too long abode in weakness. The time of their strength is at hand, and their shining strength is manifest in their purity, and their purity is linked with their divinity. There is no other source. There is no other place they can turn. Thou hast the words of eternal life. To whom shall we go? Remember these words of the Lord Christ and write them in thy consciousness. I say to all, let straying from the path that is narrow and correct, that leadeth unto life everlasting, cease, and let dominion and glory be recognized as belonging to God, to his kingdom, and to all who love the manifestation of his power. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a reason why I shall terminate at this point. Perhaps one day I shall tell you. For a few, it would mean a great deal. But I must keep my counsel in the name of freedom, that I may draw many to greater light by the exercise of divine discretion in the name of divinity, in the name of freedom, in the name of gentility and nobility, in the name of every lady and gentleman of heaven's cause, I thank you, and I bid you a holy good evening. As a mother stills the heart of a child in distress, so the ineffable power of initiation in all of its splendor shines through the veil and brings to the waiting hearts of men those disciplines of the Spirit which raise men upward into the arms of infinity and the pinnacle of attainment. Across the sands of time, the caravan of human creation has moved, restless, hot, and distressed at times by those vicissitudes of life which cannot gladden the heart, but bring pain and sorrow, and in the end a condition of fruitlessness. If the discipline were imposed, if the rule of spiritual authority were asserted, if the dominance of God virtue were raised on high, as Moses raised the serpent up, the brazen serpent in the wilderness, so all who gaze upon it would live. By the rule of order and discipline, by the power of the eternal presence, men have attained, not in weakness, not in ignorance, not in confusion, but by acceptance of the immortal pressures of God and his love, all pain and discord has been wiped away from the consciousness. The restlessness of mankind is the result of their eternal frustration. Yet I choose not to give it that quality, for it is thus to their consciousness. And I mention it in this manner, that it may be understood that it seems to have taken on an interminable quality, the longevity of mankind's dwelling in the valley of shadow has troubled many hearts. For the world is not nearly as evil as some men suppose. In examining those who are not initiated according to man's conception of initiation, in examining countless hearts of those in very orthodox circumstances, men and women who abide in the church and abide in the ordinary orthodox religious concepts, I find many who are full of spiritual enthusiasm and yet without knowledge. Magnificence abides upon this planet, and if we were to chronicle the life streams that dwell here and record for you that which we know, which is unknown to the causal observer, you would be amazed, ladies and gentlemen. You would be amazed at how near unto Christ virtue some men and women do approach without ever passing over the line that raises them into contact with the higher octaves of light. Because of this proximity for some, I would call to your attention today that it is the refinement of the spirit and the requirements of spiritual purity that prove a stumbling block to the consciousness of mankind, aware as they are of their own inequities and their own errors. I say then, throw them to the wind. Think you, O beloved ones, that the law will not care for them? Think you that any can escape the result of their doings? I tell you, nay. But be not enslaved by them or chained to them. Break the fetters of all past action, all karma-making circumstances, and accept the victory crown which is held in light's radiance. Who among you can by a mere willing change the color of your hair or your eyes? Therefore, by a mere willing, can you set aside karma and circumstance? Can you mend the past by a mere willing? All this which shall be must be resolved now, and you must resolve within your consciousness today that the future shall be changed and shall not outpicture the errors of the past. The divine blueprint, the blueprint of perfection, the image of immortality, the victory of your ascension is at hand. Time, as men count it, is not so counted in heaven. There came to our retreat not long ago an aged individual, one infirm in appearance, and one so distressed in mind that he was refused shelter by a person of great religious conviction in the outer world, simply because they feared him. When this man was taken into our retreat and instructed by the brothers for 10 days, we suddenly discovered that this man was so close to his ascension that it was a simple matter of generating certain forces within him and letting him let go of certain erroneous concepts, and he was able to accept the radiance of his ascension and ascended on January 27th of this very year. I would like to point out to you that all of these things should generate hope within your heart. You need not gaze upon yourselves with complete disapproval of all that you see. For if you could see through the veil of the years and centuries past, many of you would find a great deal of virtue abiding in your being. If this were not so, you would not be here today, determined to hear the voice of the ascended Master Consciousness. There are too many individuals today who are declaring to mankind concerning the great evil that men do. I do not say that they do not speak truly, for there is much evil done upon the planet. But I say that the good that is done upon the planet exceeds that which ordinary human opinion holds. And the happiness upon this planet exceeds that which those who would destroy happiness declare to be. I urge, therefore, that in the name of your own ascension, in the name of mighty victory, that you forsake this morning the idea that you are either hopeless or bereft of hope. Remember the words that with God all things are possible. I cannot submit to mankind's density and opinion. In God's holy name, what would occur if the ascended host were to submit to human opinion? Think you the universe itself would run in all its wondrous order if the Godhead were to submit to human creation? Mankind are children before God, and shall remain so until they shall mature. Initiation is the maturity of mankind, a coming of age, which is not necessarily related to the chronology of mankind, for some seem to have attained who but lately were acquainted with our order, whereas some who have been familiarized with the processes of initiation for centuries abide yet in human stratas of consciousness. I do not pity men. I do not pity them, I raise them. I do not waste my energy upon sickly disapproval. I point out to them that the Godhead approves of all virtue and rewards this virtue openly. I extend a flaming hand of assistance to those who yearn to know the power of the sacred fire. I break through the breach, and I am determined, with infinite determination, to acquaint you with the methods whereby you also may overcome human creation. Victims of what? Mankind are victims of hallucinations, but to them these hallucinations are real. They do not realize that they are phantoms and ghosts, which move through the night with a purposeless drifting. Let the bands of fire, let the bands of cosmic fire, let the bands of cosmic purity then be strengthened. Let men's faith in hierarchy and in the divine plan mount up as on the wings of an eagle. Let men not grow weary in well-doing. For as the word has gone forth, you shall reap in due time if you faint not. There is an expression among mankind which states that faint heart never won fair lady. And the power of your presence is the fairest lady and prize that can ever be won. It is your birthright, and it shall not be claimed by a faint heart, but by a dedicated heart, by a determined consciousness, and by the fervor that infused holy men of old. Holy men of old who are in our band of light, initiators and initiated individuals, stand ready to extend a hand of welcome to you. They stand ready to assist you to the victory of your ascension. You must, in God's name, cast aside the pursuit of that which does not give you your ascension. You must be willing to lay aside the palliative and passing pleasures of the hour, if need be, that you might attain. No man can serve two masters. You have long served the transitory masters of fleeting pleasure. I say then, in the name of God discipline, if you would attain the mastery of life, be united with the highest self of all, and hold your victory immortally. Be wise. Be wise in God's own way. There is a way that seems right unto man. The end thereof is death. There is a way of worldly wisdom. This wisdom has not ascended the earth or freed mankind from the thraldom of the senses or the fetters of fierce slavery. Our code has chalked upon the walls of our retreat any number of individuals who at one time were here receiving our discipline For one reason or another, some individuals failed in their accomplishment and went forth from our retreat, leaving their mark of unattainment. When these return to our retreat at last, we erase that mark upon the wall. Verily, your hairs are numbered. Verily, God's heirs are numbered. You are not without concern. Our concern for you is real. But so long as you are not concerned with yourself, the reality of our concern for you is meaningless unless it is translated by your acceptance into a cosmic bond. When it is translated into a cosmic bond, a new power radiates forth in your world. This is the beginning of the ascension action. O mankind, the ascension does not begin at the moment that it occurs. It begins long ago in your life. The coiled serpent strikes at mankind, and the recoil of that energy returns, karmically speaking, to sear and to maim that which was intended to walk uprightly. But when the power of divine love strikes an arrow through the heart of creation and pierces through the eye of the serpent, its head, destroyed then, destroys its venom and power to strike, and the Christ radiance riseth in its place. And the purity of the Christ radiance frees man until by initiation into the disciplines of Luxor, he is able at last to transcend his limitations, and by rising find his freedom. Ye are called of God. Ye are called to the most high service of light. The perfume of the divine radiance of ascension's flame pours forth. Let all who are athirst come. To others, let them wait if they will. They will weary in time of service unto Moloch, and they will desire to serve Christ. But I say unto you who are here, and to all who shall heed these words, to you is given to know the mysteries of God's kingdom. There are other sheep. Some are of this fold and some are not. But let the good shepherd bear this concern. Let not your heart be troubled. Call for mankind's awakening, yea, but you need not watch over them or smother them with your love. Simply pour it forth and invoke the radiance of heaven. We have learned to let the wayward wander in the desert. when their thirst is great enough, when their weariness is great enough, they will return to Luxor. They will come back to the heart of the flame. They will enter into it and climb the crystal stairway. They will submit to God's discipline. Yea, they will welcome it. They will see each rod as a step unto heaven. Could it be otherwise? Love does not demand. Love calls, and love answers. God's love calls. Your love answers. In sweet simplicity, I seal you now with ascension flames symbol upon your brow. Let all who are athirst come, and let others wonder if they will. For God worketh the work in your day as in ages past, which shall immortalize many. And the rest shall fulfill heaven's portion, wandering upon the sands of time, until they too shall come home. There are many evolutions here. All are not in the same strata. All did not begin upon the same planetary evolution. All did not come from the same life wave. All have not responded to the rod of power in equal manner. But all are children of God. Of this be mindful. May the infinite love of the brothers at Luxor, chanting a hymn to the Son of Life, rising in the east, assist you to unfold a vision of the pyramid of life, the pyramid aglow upon the horizon, composed of brilliant milk-white stones. In the center of each stone is a rainbow center of fire. Brilliant beams shine forth from each stone. But oh, the splendor of the whole, when all is aglow, for from the topmost stone, the capstone, blazes forth the flame that leads as a pathway above the stars and beyond, to the Pleiades, to Sirius, to the great central sun, to cosmic union and to victory won for all. Peace be unto you this day, in God's name. Thank you and good afternoon. We have heard from the great disciplinarian Serapis Bey.